State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Mitch Baraldis, an Arizona Sports podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils here on Arizona Sports. Mitch Baraldis alongside with Jesse Morrison. Jeremy Schnell currently on assignment. And Jesse, I know that you didn't personally get a chance to react on the edition of the podcast when Ray Anderson announced his resignation from his position with Arizona State University Athletics. I'm allowing you the time now if you have any just initial reaction thoughts before we get really into the teeth of what he had to tell Tim Healy yesterday.
First off, the big thing that I think is great about this is what we've seen after in the few days since.
Yes.
The numerous donations to the Sun Angel Collective, the NIL Collective that ASU fans, boosters have established. It's skyrocketed. And that is, to me, the big positive coming out of this. And just also, it's just kind of signaling an end of an era from the Herm Edwards thing that is completely kind of just done now, unless you really want to lump in President Crow with that. Now, my other thoughts are that now they have to pick the right person. They can't pick somebody similar to Ray.
Yes.
Dr. Crow has to pick somebody that cares about the future of college sports, is aligned with what is going to make college sports work in this time period, because you either have to buy in on the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff, or you are going to lose. So that's what they need to do moving forward. Right now, though, great to see what the boosters and the fans have done, donating to the Sun Angel Collective after Ray has resigned. And then I do want to say that, and we'll get into this a little bit more, Ray's tenure was not 100% all bad.
Yes.
Did some very good things, especially the hockey program, establishing that, and helping build Mullet Arena. That was huge. It's honestly keeping the Coyotes here.
Yeah.
which is really good. So that's what those are my big takeaways from Ray's resignation.
Of course, the overlying the main reaction stems from the football program and the lack of success there. The basketball program, while there has been some recent success, there's still some griping about the current facility that is being used with Desert Financial Arena. And I mean, Weather Up's pretty good, at least from the outset.
It's awesome.
You've been there personally, so you understand it better than I do. But the main arena where you play is really what's going to draw in your recruits, not necessarily your training areas.
Correct.
And that was a lot of what was covered in the final episode of the Anderson Healy Show, which is distributed exclusively with us at Arizona Sports. Tim Healy sitting down with Ray Anderson, covering essentially everything that we had questions about. First and foremost, him talking about why he decided to resign in the first place.
You got to have leadership that's going to be in place for 6, 7, 8, 10 years, perhaps. I simply do not have that runway. And it would not have been smart, fair, or in the best interest of the university for me to hold on for another 2 years, knowing that I'm 69 years old.
Yeah. He's right. I don't think that should really necessarily be the main reason why he resigned.
Yeah.
But he's probably not long for employment here in his life. He probably wants to retire. He probably does not see himself as a 6, 7, 10-year athletic director remaining at Arizona State.
Which is probably necessary for as big of a move as Arizona State's about to make, joining the Big 12 next year.
Correct. And with, all of the changing landscape and everything with college sports, I don't know if he really wanted to be a part of that, because it's going to take a lot of work. And when you have worked for however long Ray has worked in various jobs in his life, this is not something that he probably wants to take on, and I can see why he wouldn't do that. But again, I really wish that he would say some other things like, hey, I'm resigning because we haven't had the success in revenue sports that I've wanted us to have. And that's where I'm like, I think he sees himself as having done a very good job. And he's just kind of going out, riding away into the sunset. That's kind of my takeaway from a lot of his comments from this.
Well, so you mentioned the unwillingness to adapt to the NIL marketplace, and I'm going to jump to that cut right now, actually, because the frustration grows just hearing Ray Anderson talk about how basically they were late to the party when it came to the NIL stuff.
My successor is going to have the ability to convince ASU fans and donors and alum and boosters to do so, very frankly, at a higher level. If we want to compete with the best in Big 12, then we are going to have to invest at a higher level. It's that simple. Because we are behind now because we took the position that we would wait and see how it evolved. And then, unfortunately, a lot of folks really believe that NIL stood for now it's legal. And so they just ran out there and were doing the things that the boosters back in the day in certain parts of the country, in certain universities that will not be named, were used to doing business. A lot of that has returned. As a result of that, our NIL war chest is significantly below what others have out there. It doesn't have to be some massive war chest, but it at least has to be competitive.
Okay, look, I'm sorry that you apparently didn't want to play by the actual rules now that exist, but that's not an excuse for you to just say, oh, well, we didn't want to go into it because we didn't know what it was going to be like. No! Get into it. This is how it's working now.
How did you not know what it was going to be like? I saw the writing on the wall from a mile away. This was exactly what was going to happen. If you could not see that from the outset, then I've no idea what you were thinking. Like, just explain that to me. How? Like, obviously, the big powers that are in college football, and even some of the ones that aren't big powers, we're going to say, hey, yeah, now it's legal.
Yes.
We're going to do whatever we can to compete at this level. We're going to, get the car dealerships involved, get all of these factors involved with the money making, and not just, whatever little small, and no offense to these companies, but whatever little small companies were giving out ASU NIL deals. No, it was massive investment right away, and they should have been bought in from day one as soon as it was legal, because you could see the writing on the wall clear as day.
They always talk about how this place is a sleeping giant.
Yes.
Arizona State is a sleeping giant. Well, sorry. Well, you know how you awaken a sleeping giant? With some money.
Yeah.
And you spend and you invest. Remember back in, I think it was 2022, when Eric Gentry was this awesome stud. He had a great freshman season for ASU.
Yes.
And then as soon as NIL becomes legal, what does USC come in and do? Oh, they give him, $5 million to come to the university?
I don't know the exact total, and it's obviously not USC giving it to him.
No.
But it's
the point being is that university and that collective, they played the game immediately, and they got an awesome prospect in the process.
They got Caleb Williams too.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. This is what, even maybe more than the Herm hire, because there were some good times with Herm.
There were.
This is what maybe frustrates me more than anything else, is just the unwillingness to adapt and change when the writing on the wall was, again, clear as day.
All right, one more cut because we're short for time and there's other stuff that we want to get into, but we have to talk about what Ray Anderson had to say about the Herm hire.
Yep.
He said, I would have prefaced by saying, he said he had no regrets about hiring of Herm, but I have a counterpoint that should make it clear that he should have regrets about hiring Herm. But listen to what Ray had to say.
I think we both do.
Listen to what Ray had to say.
I don't regret the decision because the decision was well thought out in our minds, and we thought we needed a different model, a different personality. Because folks might not want to admit it, but the prior 3 or 4 coaches were very frankly similar, and the results ended up at the end of the day not being very successful, in large part because of the recruiting. And we thought the training development of student athletes here who would then be able to go on to the NFL, because that means a lot to these student athletes. And so I don't regret bringing Herm here.
And then went on to say that he does have some regrets about the assistants that were here.
Yep.
And it almost felt like a sideswiping of Antonio Pierce and everybody else involved with that particular regime.
Yeah, which is correct. And I agree.
But he's just defending Herm Edwards again.
Exactly. This is where I'm going. Herm should have, and Ray should have, had their eye on their assistant coaches to make sure that they weren't breaking the rules.
Yep.
You cannot blame the assistant coaches for a lack of institutional control. That is on athletic director and head coach of team. And they obviously let their assistants run wild and break rules, and that cost them a lot. Cost them a chance at a bowl game this year, which there are not that many good teams this year. If ASU somehow upsets Oregon, beats U of A, they could potentially be a 5-win bowl team.
Sure.
So it's just a ridiculous statement in general. Like, how do you not regret the Herm hire when that was he lacked the institutional control and the knowledge to say, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, or just didn't even know it was like wrong or whatever, which again is not really his fault, but also he should have. It is he should have known.
And that's the argument, is that it is Herm Edwards' fault. You sit there, you don't want to blame Herm Edwards, but you want to blame everything else that was underneath and within Herm Edwards. That is Herm Edwards' fault. That is to blame for him.
The head coach needs to be the one that oversees everything, that has, control of his program, and he lost control of his program.
And at that point, that's when a Ray Anderson or some higher up athletic representative needs to step in and do something about it.
Yep.
And they didn't.
Nope.
The only thing they did was they let everybody walk. They let Herm go on decent terms, meaning he's got a nice little paycheck coming his way for the next couple of years.
They fired him after, they fired him.
They didn't even fire him. There was no probable cause.
Well,
meaning they have to pay him.
Well, Emory Jones stated last year, our coach was fired.
Okay.
So I will say that they fired the coach. Going off of what he said. But yeah, I mean, they fired him after a tough loss. Like, it was like
to Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a typical coach firing. It wasn't based off of really anything but,
Fine.
You guys lost to Eastern Michigan. You probably aren't the head coach here.
Yeah, or probably should never be again. Just want to point out that other things that were touched on in that conversation that Ray Anderson had with Tim Healy, he talked about Desert Financial Arena, how he anticipates upgrades to come for that facility, much needed upgrades to come for that facility. And then he talked about the success that the Olympic sports have had. And why wouldn't Ray Anderson talk about that? That was like his golden goose the entire time he was here.
And again, I'd like to say he's done a great job with that. I am somebody that cares about Olympic sports at the college level. I'm somebody that enjoys volleyball, enjoys, softball, baseball, and
soccer.
Yeah, soccer. And he's done a good job with at least some of those. I mean, the baseball team we could go into a little bit, but on how that's been a little bit rocky. But wrestling, hockey, he's done a great job with that stuff. And I do enjoy that, and I do appreciate that. I just think, from a just an average fan person, they, are usually into football, men's basketball, and then maybe like they're a women's basketball fan. They're a maybe they're a women's basketball fan, maybe they're a softball fan, maybe they're a baseball fan, and like they have like one other sport that they follow at ASU. So, I think that that's where he failed the most is, again, in football, and football is king.
That full conversation between Tim Healy and Ray Anderson is available. The Anderson Healy Show you can find on the Arizona Sports app and arizonasports.com. The other thing that comes with Ray Anderson's resignation is he's not fully leaving the university.
No.
He's remaining a professor, a part of the Bud Selig.
Sandra Day O'Connor.
The law school.
College, yeah.
Yeah. Within there's like there's a sports law division that Bud Selig's name is on it. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is a great article pointed out through the Arizona State student-run The State Press. Katrina Michalik. I apologize if I butchered your name, Katrina. She points out that Ray Anderson is going to keep his pay level as a professor, the same pay level that he had when he was vice president of university athletics. He's getting close to $950,000 every year until 2026. Yeah, and I don't know how to feel about that.
I feel bad for other professors at the school because I don't know if I'm right on this, but it seems like he is one of the more highly paid, if not the highest paid professor at the school. I would like to see where he ranks now in highest paid professors in North America.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily sure that he deserves that when there are great professors that have dedicated their life's work to educating, college-aged kids. And, I had some of the greatest professors in the world at Arizona State, and I would love to see them make a little bit more money and Ray not make as much money, to tell you the truth, because they deserve it. They're freaking awesome, and this just leaves me with a bit of a sour taste in my mouth.
So, that's the other part of it that you're hinting at right now. Chris Cartman with Sun Devil Source does a great job publishing their site. Mentioned that Anderson's pay now is a part of the university budget and not the athletics budget. So if you're worried about athletics taking a hit, still having to pay off Ray, just fine. Yeah, but guess what? Now that impacts the entirety of the university.
Yep.
As you're saying about professors and other academic institutions, food served to students, housing. There's so much impacted now with that less than $1 million a year being taken out of the university's budget. How is Michael Crow okay with this?
I don't know. But, I guess if they had just let him walk, they probably would have had to pay out his salary anyway.
Yeah.
So he might as well do a service for the school. It's an
expensive service. I hope other kids are getting stipends or something.
Yeah, I would have just liked for them to work out some sort of negotiation where it's like, hey, Ray, this is a little bit ridiculous of a professor's salary. Let's give you a little bit of a reduction here for the last few years, just because, bad optics.
All right. That's enough of us complaining about Ray Anderson. There's a bunch of information out there. You can formulate your own opinions. You heard ours. Time to talk about something we're excited to talk about.
Football!
This football team had a big win against UCLA on the road. And now they're looking to push that momentum, for lack of a better word, into this massive matchup this weekend against Oregon.
Yes, number 6 Oregon.
Number 6 in the country.
I wrote the wrong ranking.
You got really excited about this Oregon team.
I did. I said number 2.
But justifiably so, because they're 9-1, and their only loss because of a missed field goal against number 5 Washington back in October. This could easily be the undefeated Pac-12 team that we're talking about in November.
Correct. I think that they're the best team in the country. I'm going to say that hands down right now. I know that they lost to Washington. That was a hostile road environment. They played their butts off in that game. So it's like a kind of loss. It was just the other team happened to come out ahead at the end. It wasn't like, it was basically an evenly matched game. But they're just so complete as a team.
In every facet.
There's literally no holes in this team. They can run the ball. They have probably, in my opinion, and I know we've kind of said this twice already this year, that ASU's faced the best quarterback in the country. I think that this is the best quarterback in the country. I think that he's being a bit slighted for the Heisman.
Well, I'll stop you there because our friends at FanDuel, he's the favorite at minus 110.
Okay,
Bo
cool.
Nix, who we're talking about, by the way.
Because I've heard a lot of J.J. McCarthy, and I've heard, a lot of...
I'm sorry. If you throw for under 100 yards in a big win, there's no way you should be the Heisman. I'm sorry.
Agree. Here's the thing. Here's what Bo Nix has just been insane at this year. Completing passes.
Yeah.
Would you ever see someone with a 77.7% completion percentage? He does not turn the ball over. 29 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He has over 3,000 yards. He can rush a little bit as well. Just a complete quarterback, a complete team. Their rushing attack is amazing. Their wide receiver group is amazing.
Did you see that run that Troy Franklin put on the Jets against USC? It was like a 60-plus yard touchdown pass where he started out 15 yards on the pass and then he just cut across and boom, he was gone. That dude is freaky fast, man.
Wow, that's insane. And then their defense, they're top 20 defense in the country. So this team is going to be extremely hard for ASU to beat and face, which is basically every time they face Oregon. But as we've seen in the past, for some reason, Oregon, when they come to ASU and various sports, struggles here. They've been upset in football multiple times. They have lost in women's basketball when they were one of the top 5 teams in the country. And men's basketball as well, when Peyton Pritchard was on the team and they were really good, came in, lost as well in that game. So it's just been a very interesting thing that Oregon kind of struggles down here. But this team's just so good. I just don't see them really struggling in this game.
Here's who I worry about. And Bo Nix, fair to worry about. Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson, fair to worry about. You mentioned the rushing attack, but we have to give credit to Bucky Irving, who has just been a monster when it comes to helping Oregon establish its run game this year.
Yeah.
I remember against Colorado earlier this year, and granted, we know about Colorado now as the football team that they are, but he absolutely mauled that defense. He was getting everything that he wanted per carry. Bucky Irving is a guy that I worry about because if Oregon can establish the run consistently, and granted, the ASU's defense has played much better against the run, but if Oregon can establish that with Bucky Irving, it'll be a much easier day for Bo Nix, and therefore a much easier day for Oregon's offense.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bucky Irving. We can't not mention Jordan James as well, who has 570 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground.
That's the second running back.
Yeah, the backup running back to Bucky Irving. So they have a 2-headed monster. That's going to be tough to stop for ASU. You mentioned Tez Johnson, Troy Franklin. They're going to be tough to stop. It's going to be a hard game for ASU. But I'm excited to see this Oregon team. I think they're really good. I think, again, they're the best team in the country. I have not seen a team that's jumped out to me as much as they have this year and been as dominant. They went into Utah and absolutely dominated them in one of the toughest places to play in the entire country.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
And so, I mean, what scares me about Oregon is they're going to have a matchup with Oregon State, and Oregon State in that rivalry always ends up being crazy, and you could see them losing to a very good Oregon State team. But I think they're looking like the team because I think they're going to rematch with Washington in the Pac-12 championship, I think they're going to beat Washington again. I think they're going to go to the playoff. But
Now, there's one more matchup that we have to touch on, and we would be remiss if we didn't. This is Kenny Dillingham's most recent employer.
Yes.
Where he put together this campaign that essentially has set up Bo Nix to be as good as he is right now, and the offense to be as good as it was last year, and maintain that. Him against Dan Lanning, who is an excellent football coach. I'm very curious to see how Kenny approaches this assignment with Dan's great knowledge as a defensive guy and what Kenny has been able to produce in the entirety of this first season with ASU at all of his weird offensive sets. I wonder if he's going to be able to have Dan Lanning on his toes a bit and maybe throw at him something that Lanning has even never seen before.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be a runaway blowout by Oregon.
No.
I think it'll be, a 2-score win for them, but I think that with Kenny's familiarity with Dan Lanning, I think that that's going to play a factor into ASU being able to keep the game a little bit close. Kenny knows Dan Lanning's tendencies, but, Dan Lanning also knows Kenny's tendencies, I'm sure. So that'll help Dan Lanning. But I still think that with what Kenny knows of Dan Lanning, I think that ASU will be able to have a little bit of success against Oregon's defense. I don't think that they're going to have that much success, but again, it's not going to be a 45-10 game.
Not a boat race, you think?
No, not a boat race because
There's no water. That was stupid.
We always get our predictions wrong, so it's probably going to be a boat race. But I'm going to say that it's not going to be a boat race because every time I say that it's going to be a boat race, it ends up being a close game. Every time I say it's going to be a close game, it ends up being a boat race. I can't predict this team. This team is impossible to predict.
We're just not the best predictors. Speaking of, let's make our predictions for this game.
You want to do that now or at the end?
Let's do it now because we kept teasing it enough. Do you want to go first or do you want me?
I will go first.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's going to be 28-14 Oregon.
And while I agree that this is going to be a close enough game, I do think that if I'm looking at it between ASU's defense and Oregon's offense, I think Oregon's offense has the edge in that matchup enough to get them to, say, in the 30s. So I'll go 35 for Oregon, and I'll go 21 for ASU.
One question for you.
Sure.
Do we see Jaden Rashada?
Well, what was it? Noah Furtado with Sun Devil Source had pointed out that he was back at practice early at the beginning of this week.
Yep, participating in team drills. Participating in team drills.
I don't know if that necessarily means he's going to play this weekend, and I don't know, man. With all the sets that they had to put together against UCLA and that defense, I don't know if I even want Rashada out there right now.
I don't really want him out there either. I don't want him to risk an injury for him, another injury for him.
Yeah.
But I think that, and it's been reported that he's not going to start.
Yeah.
But he could be available in an emergency situation.
I just don't want that.
Period. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see it, but if the game is close and something happens and it's the choice between Rashada and Conover, I'm gonna have a hard time believing that Kenny Dillingham will put Conover in over Rashada. So I think there's like a slim chance, like a 5% chance we see Jaden Rashada in this game.
I think that's fair. And then that's something based off of how the Oregon game goes, depending on if Rashada plays or does not play. That could be the main conversation that we have heading into the territorial week the next week.
Yeah.
All right. How about around Sun Devil Athletics? Let's start with men's hoops. They have a game. We're recording this on Thursday morning for reference. They have a game against UMass Lowell tonight at 7 at Desert Financial Arena. This is not going to be an easy matchup for ASU, at least record-wise. UMass Lowell is undefeated this year. They beat Georgia Tech the other night as well.
Yeah. This one's going to be another test for the Sun Devil men. Beating a Power 6, we'll say, for college basketball team in Georgia Tech the other night, when you're UMass Lowell and being a 3-0 team coming in here, it's not going to be a cakewalk. ASU's got to play a lot better than they've played in their past 2 games to be able to win this game.
Be good on offense outside of just the fast breaks.
And
fast breaks look great.
Make your free throws.
Do better on offense, please.
Make your free throws.
That'll be the biggest thing. Defense looks good. Just offense control. How about women's? They had a good win against San Francisco the other night. They're now 3-0 to start the year.
Yep.
Kadidia Torre, breakout game for her against San Francisco.
Yeah, 22 points, 14 rebounds. She was great in that game. Again, I don't really know how to gauge this team because they've played 3 mid-majors so far.
Yeah.
Next week is really the test when they have number 11 Texas on Thanksgiving.
That'll be a good one.
In the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we'll see if they are legit or not. They're just very streaky offensive team. They'll put up, 26 points in a quarter and then put up 10 in the next quarter. So they're very streaky. I don't know if I trust their defense either. Yeah, I mean, tonight's game against which they play Grambling State.
It's one of those ASU doubleheaders where women's plays at 5 and then men's will play as soon as that one's done.
Yes, but the women are actually on the road.
Oh, they're on the road.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's not a doubleheader, is it?
I mean, it's a doubleheader, but it's not a doubleheader at home.
No, I just need to pay attention to the show sheet, Jesse. That's what I need to do.
No, I mean, you're right though. There's a doubleheader of ASU hoops tonight. It's just not at home.
I need to stop misinforming.
But yeah, Grambling State tonight at 5. Again, not really going to be able to gauge this team out of playing Grambling State. It's going to be next week against Texas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which will actually be on ESPN Plus. So I'm happy that game will be able to be watched because those stupid early season tournaments are always on Flow Hoops. And you got to pay for Flow Hoops.
Hold on. Let's not bash companies while we're here. Flow does a good job putting their broadcast together, but yes, the frustration of pay service is, whatever. That's not Flow's fault. All right, let's switch to volleyball. Well, football's got Oregon this weekend. So does volleyball.
Yeah.
Number 6 Oregon against number 18 ASU.
Both number 6.
Tomorrow,
both volleyball and football.
Tomorrow at Desert Financial Arena. I'm just gonna be putting myself on a Marta Levinska kills tracker. Again, she had 21 against Utah last Saturday. 21. That's ridiculous.
Mitch is always tracking Marta Levinska's kills. He will come in every time with the
I'm sorry, she had 21 and the next closest person had 10.
It's very good. She's very good. And I've realized that she is leaving this program because she is a senior, and that's a bummer. They're losing a lot.
She's been a great addition. And J.J. Van Niel, it'll be interesting to see how he attacks recruiting for next year. I don't know enough about what volleyball recruiting has done so far, if any at all. But, yeah, to your point about a lot of great talent leaving, you got to keep that flow going.
Shannon Shields.
Let's keep talking about great ASU teams. How about number 14 hockey hosting Alaska Anchorage tomorrow at Mullet Arena at 7?
Yeah, I'll be at that game actually.
Oh, nice.
So I'm just going as a fan with some friends. But yeah, should be another good hockey weekend if you can make it out to Mullet Arena. That's a very good atmosphere. It's probably, I'm actually going to say this, hockey, ASU hockey, best atmosphere at the school.
It's one of the better collegiate multi-purpose arenas that I've seen in a while. And I know there's some historical ones that get a lot of love, but as far as new ones go, Mullet Arena is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Easy access too. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of State of the Sun Devils. Be sure to follow us on all your favorite social media platforms at AZ Sports Devils on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads.
We have Threads?
I think we have Threads.
Okay.
I think Threads still exists, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
If you are not an audio listener, but more of a video watcher with your audio, this is a camera that we're waving at. Hello. On the Arizona Sports YouTube page. So be sure to check out all the great content from not just us as State of the Sun Devils, but with all the great content churned out at Arizona Sports.
Yep.
And be sure you're paying closely to Kenny Dillingham's weekly visit with Bickley and Murata Mornings tomorrow. I believe that's at 7 a.m. It's not going to be his first time on the record talking about Ray Anderson, but it is his weekly visit.
Activate the Valley.
Yeah, talking about what has been a very important week for Arizona State.
Activate the Valley on Bickley and Murata with Kenny Dillingham.
And then, of course, the game is on Saturday. It's a 2 p.m.
2
kickoff.
p.m. Yes, we love it.
2 p.m. kickoff in the Valley of the Sun. It'll be carried on Arizona Sports as well as the Arizona Sports app. And that's going to do it.
The men's hoops game as well tonight.
Men's hoops as well. Apologies.
Going to be on Arizona Sports.
Yes.
And the Arizona Sports app.
I got to be better about plugging our property, or at least our company. Again, that's going to do it for us. Shout out Jeremy Schnell, who could not be here today. Shout out Felisa Cárdenas behind the scenes. For Jesse Morrison, I'm Mitch Varelda saying so long, and we'll talk to you again this weekend.